All right, whenever you're ready, would you like me to pull up the agenda?
I have a paper copy of the timeless words here, so I can start on
Okay,
those.
sounds good.
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Wilmington Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the published link. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter meeting ID 880-7735-9467. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted. Then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we're not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we're able. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order at, it looks like 7:12. Could I go through the roll, please? Vinny?
Here.
Ron?
Yes, here.
Tom?
Here.
Laura?
Here.
Alex?
Here.
And I should note that Alec doesn't have a functional camera, so he'll be unavailable for video. And myself, Don Pearson, here. The first item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 32 Shady Lane Drive.
Is the applicant for 32 Shady Lane Drive here?
I don't see the homeowner or person installing the deck.
John Benoit, yeah, they were told that they should both participate.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, we can give you a rundown of what's included in the RDA. It's pretty straightforward if you'd like us to.
Please.
Cameron, do you want to describe the project? Yeah, sure. So it is a new 16 by 8 foot screened in deck / porch on the back of the property. And it's within 100 foot, it's in the 100-foot buffer zone to BVWs. The deck will also include 4 12-inch diameter footings that will be excavated by hand. And it is approximately 45 feet from BVWs at its nearest point, and erosion controls are proposed. They aren't shown on this plan, but the applicant's going to install them as close as possible to the project without getting in the way. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Let's go through the commissioners for any comments. Vinny?
Looks okay to me.
I should say, by virtue of presenting it, does the department have any comments aside from what you just read? You're satisfied with the description of the project?
Yeah, I think the only comment we had, well, from engineering was where the septic tank was. We were questioning that, but
Yeah.
that's in the front of the house, so it's not going to be an issue. So I think other than that, we
Okay.
didn't have much.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, as Cameron said, we had asked the applicant to install erosion controls as a condition and have them as far away from the wetlands as possible. So that would be a condition that you'd want to put on the determination.
Thank you. How about you, Ron?
I don't have any questions.
Tom?
No questions here.
Laura? You're offline? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, no questions.
Okay. Alec?
Nope.
Okay. And I have no questions as well. Do you have any hands raised from the audience for comments or questions from the public?
Would anyone like to comment on this proposal? If so, you can raise your hand with the raise hand function. Don't have any callers on the line, so it would just be the folks that are here. And Mr. Chairman, I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. I'd like to ask for a motion then to issue a -3 determination for 32 Shady Lane.
So moved.
Second.
And Ron made the motion and Vinnie seconded it. For the vote, Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
and myself, Don, yes. So the motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 530 Shawshene Ave.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
All right. I regret that I'm without video feed, but for the public record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist with Hancock Associates on behalf of the applicant, Sean Nolan. I see that Sean is in attendance this night as well. We filed a request for determination of applicability and request to remove 4 trees in the outer 100-foot buffer zone to wetlands. The property is a single-family home residence. There is a wetland complex located off property in due west of the subject parcel. We feel delineated. There's a perennial stream and bordering vegetated wetland. So we feel delineated mean annual high water associated with the perennial stream as it would project 200-foot riverfront area towards the subject property. And we delineated BVW as it would project 100-foot buffer zone towards the subject property. Valerie, I don't know if you can project the site plan.
I was just about to do that.
All right. So what we discovered was that the 200-foot riverfront area falls short of the subject property. So no portion of the lot is within riverfront area, and the 100-foot buffer zone does encroach onto the subject property. Once we have the site plan up, okay. If everyone can see that, so the lower left corner of the lot, which would be the southwest corner, you can see that we demarcated the 100-foot buffer zone. So only that portion of the lot is subject. Now, in request to take these trees, there's a total of 4 trees in the buffer zone. There's 1 mature white pine, 2 small maple trees, and 1 mature oak. We are filing in request to do this without a formal order of conditions permit, as I think the work is relatively innocuous in the sense that he would, this isn't clear cutting. He would be taking 4 trees in the 100-foot buffer zone. He'd cut them flush to the ground. I believe his intentions are to stump grind them flush to the ground without actually removing any root structure that would create any earth disturbance. So it'd be all above ground to take these trees out. The only considerations I would think is that if at the commission's purview, if you'd like us to install perimeter sediment controls, I think we'd be happy to do that. And I understand that, does Wilmington have a tree removal policy that mandates replacement plants? We do have the opportunity at the Conservation Commission's purview that if you guys want to see replacements, that we would either offer smaller trees that grow, no greater than 15 or 20 feet in height, or maybe shrubs at a 2-to-1 ratio for each tree taken, or something of that magnitude. This is a bit unique in the context that Mr. Nolan he had a misfortunate accident in which case a tree on his property fell down, damaged his house, and landed on him. He was actually pinned under the tree, requiring the fire department to extract him from under the tree, and he had a severe leg injury as the result. It was witnessed by his young daughter, who is now has some post-traumatic stress resulting from the trauma of witnessing that. So these are all trees that he feels are at-risk trees, that he's trying to remove these trees to maintain safety on his lot. So that's it in a nutshell. So it really is, if you can see the 4 trees that we're looking to take in the buffer zone, that's our request and our RDA.
Thank you. Valerie or Cameron, do you have any comments?
No, we didn't have any more comments. I mean, as you can see, the trees are on, the very outskirts of the 100-foot buffer zone. So we don't really have much else to say.
Yeah, I think we measured the closest distance from the nearest tree to the wetland at approximately 75 to 80 feet away from the wetland.
Okay. Moving to Vinny, do you have questions or comments, Vinny? Vinny?
Hey,
Did you
no,
have
I
any
don't.
questions,
I
comments? No?
didn't know you were talking to me.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Yeah, a couple. It doesn't look like some of the trees, in particular that 6-inch maple, would make it all to the way to the house if it fell. Is there a reason they want to remove houses that, even if falling, wouldn't hit the house?
Oh, so the smaller diameter trees, the 6-inch and the 9-inch maple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I don't understand the explicit intent. I know that small trees become big trees over time, and these are the trees that were at the request of the applicant to remove. He had identified individual trees that we located via survey and demarcated based on DBH and species type.
Okay.
So I think Mr. Nolan is in attendance this evening if he is at liberty to join the conversation.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Hi,
So
Sean.
that 6-inch tree was actually damaged in the falling, so it's kind of a crooked tree now. It's uprooted in one part, but I didn't want to remove it because I knew it was, I had a good idea that it was in that buffer zone. But David is correct. So those trees are the next ones that I'm worried about coming down. And not to give you my sob story, but the tree did follow me, broke my knee, tore my ACL. I was laid up for a good 6 months, letting my leg heal. Again, not myself, sorry, but my poor daughter. We've stayed in the hotel 2 windy days since the trees have fallen in April because she has PTSD about the trees. And those are the next ones that are, that we have a lot of worries about.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Sean.
you would be willing to replace with shrubbery?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Great. That's it.
Thanks. Tom, how about you?
No questions here, Don.
Okay, Laura, you?
No questions.
Okay. Alec?
Nope.
And I guess I appreciate that you're willing to put a couple of shrubs in for each of the trees that you remove. So thank you. Has Mike joined us? Or is he?
No, I don't think Mike's going to be joining us tonight.
Okay. So is there any, are there any questions or feedback from the audience on 530 Shawshene Ave?
There is a hand raised.
Okay,
There we go.
Hi there, I'm Jim Parks. I am Sean's neighbor. I have lived at 534 Shawshene Ave for the last 44 years. And we've never seen any trees come down. I was there when the tree hit his house back in April. The 3 trees that are on the map there is a 35-foot white pine, a 20-foot oak, and a 17-foot high oak. I should not have to sleep at the opposite end of my house when there are high wind warnings. When you watch these things swaying, and for Sean to have to leave the house, it's just wrong. So I'm just really hoping that the Conservation Commission will really consider this. It's just wrong. They need to come down. They really do. Thank you for your time.
thanks, Jim. Anyone else?
No hands raised.
Okay. Could I have a motion then to issue a negative, is it a 2?
It's a -3.
-3 determination?
Do you,
for-
I'm sorry, does the commission want to do any replacements as part of the issuance?
I got the impression that they were willing to replace it with 2 shrubs or trees per removed tree.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so we'll do 2 native shrubs per tree.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Great. So I think administratively, following issuance of a negative determination, that in good faith that I could propose some native shrubs that would fare well there. And I could submit it to you, Valerie, or for just review and approval prior to executing it.
That's what we'll do.
Thanks, David. So again, could I have a motion to issue a -3 determination with a proposed 2-to-1 shrub to tree replacement for 530 Shawshene Ave?
So moved.
Vinnie made the motion. Second?
Second?
Ron seconded the motion. For the vote, Vinnie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Alec,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Sean and Jim, for joining us tonight. I appreciate your support.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody. I appreciate it. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Be well, everyone. Thanks again.
Good night. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a notice of intent for Deming Way.
Hi, my name is excuse me, John Getherall. I work for GCG Associates. We're the representative for the Wilmington Housing Authority, who's proposing this project. Valerie, can I share my screen?
Yes.
So Deming Way is a low-income, elderly and non-elderly handicapped development. There is a total of 69 units and a driveway and some parking areas. This is the third phase of the pavement maintenance. Phase 1 was completed in 2013. Phase 2 was completed in 2016, and this is the last phase. The reason for the phasing is from funding from the state. They provide the funding for this type of maintenance, so they just didn't have enough money to do it all at once. The resource areas, this is this is the site. This is Route 62 here. And Millbrook is here. We wetlands and land management flagged this in November of last year, with flags ranging from R1 over here to R13. And we have the 100-foot riparian and then the 200-foot riparian shown here in blue. In addition to that, there's a wetlands line, flags A1 all the way over to A33 that were located by our surveyors. So the work we're going to propose, there is some work within the buffer zone of both the wetlands and the riverfront. This is our site plan. We're going to be doing some pavement replacement in here. And we're going to be removing some pavement. At this area, we're going to be removing approximately 2,075 square feet of pavement. For some reason, when this was originally built, the parking lot was very, very wide, and it's unnecessary. So we're going to reduce the pavement. There's a catch basin over here, which will now be in a lawn area. So we're going to have to add a new catch basin here and tie it into the existing catch basin that connects to the existing drainage system. In addition to that, we're doing replacing some paved areas behind the units. These areas are used for the residents to go outside and spend some time, enjoying the outdoors. And they've been degraded, and as a safety issue, it's time for them to be replaced. We have there's a total of 10 buildings, and all those 10 buildings, as you can see here, is this number 2, 3, go all the way around, and all those areas up at the rear of the buildings will be removed and replaced in almost the exact area. Some slight changes to for minor adjustments to meet the ADA requirements for the walks. There are 2 buildings with a central heating units in the basements. Both of those units, with Unit 8 and Unit 3, have a sump pump that currently discharges out to the rear of the buildings. On one of the units, which is number 8 over here, the pipe is on the surface, and it's a tripping hazard for the residents who live there. We're proposing, when we redo the walk, to depress it under the ground and put an extension so it will daylight and discharge over the lawn and into the wetlands. Unit number 3 here, the sump pump is at the wall and discharges right across the walk. And we're going to do the same thing as Unit 8. We're going to depress the pipe and daylight it a little further away, so there's no icing hazards or any other degradation due to the water always being pumped on that area. the last part of the project is in this area right here. There's the pavement has degraded around the driveway, and we're proposing to replace some of the pavement where it's degraded. We're going to saw cut the pavement, but in addition to that, to prevent it from happening again, we'd like to add some additional pavement on the inside of this turn. For the larger vehicles like the fire trucks and the delivery trucks and the ambulance, to prevent any further degradation of the area. This area is the only new pavement that we're going to be adding. It's about 225 square feet, and overall we're going to be removing the 2,000, as I said. For erosion control around the site, we'll be providing erosion control filter tubes and silt sacks and existing stormwater catch basins, stuff like that. We're hoping to get this project so it can be bid in the spring. It's a public bid project because it's a city-owned facility, and yeah, so we're looking to get your approval.
Thank you, John. Valerie or Cam, do you have some questions, comments?
You're muted, Val.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll take this one. We had some comments from the engineering division regarding a pipe invert grading adjacent to the ADA handicap spaces and grading, additional grading detail along 5-foot extension of the pavement. Those issues were addressed by the applicant in materials that were submitted today. Hopefully you got a chance to look at those, added some spot grades, adjusted the grading a little bit, and fixed the invert, the pipe invert. So those comments were addressed. The project, while they are adding pavement within the 100-foot riverfront area, that area is currently degraded because it's been driven over as part of sort of a crumbled shoulder there. And their improvement to the overall riverfront area is a decrease in the amount of impervious surface. So we have reviewed this, and we don't have any additional comments or questions at this point.
Thanks. Okay, we'll move to the commissioners then. Vinny?
Yeah, how large are those catch basins? How much gallons can they take?
Excuse me, gallows?
Gallons.
Oh,
How much
I'm not
water
sure.
can it take?
I'm not sure. We didn't do a stormwater analysis because we're reducing the amount of pavement. It seems to drain well right now.
2 catch basins are going to be sufficient?
There's more on the site. So we have a catch basin, an existing catch basin here.
Yep.
There's one on the other side of the road.
Yep.
To remain. There's a catch basin here up the driveway, here up the driveway. I don't see any more over here. There's one over here where we're doing our work. So there's a number of drainage structures to catch the runoff.
And where are they dumping, once they're filled, where are they dumping to?
Well, this catch basin is dumping into this detention basin. We did not do a full analysis on this. This catch basin goes out to the street. And I believe it goes into the river.
How about the other side? Anything on the other side?
There's a catch basin here in the parking lot behind the building. And it goes piped into this detention basin. These detention basins were designed when this building was permitted. And there's a drainage control structure here, which will eventually end up into the wetlands. There's a head wall out here behind this building.
Okay.
You good, Vinny?
I'm good.
Yep, okay. Next, Tom.
No questions, Don.
Laura,
No questions.
Alec, I do have a question. The areas that are labeled laundry drying areas that are going to be replaced with pavement.
Correct.
Is there a reason that you can't use permeable pavement in areas like that?
Cost. You know, the pavement out there is degraded cement concrete. The permeable pavers, they're more money. They have to be maintained. We were just going to replace the concrete with bituminous.
So you're doing a 1-for-1 replacement?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a cost issue, really.
My name is Mike Crowder, Associates. I'm also a work job.
Mike, I don't hear you very well. Your voice is distorted.
What are the issues? Can you hear me now?
No.
No. Okay. And then I'll just be quiet.
Is anyone else having a problem with the audio or?
Yeah, no, it's not coming in right.
John, could you tell us what Mike is saying?
I cannot hear him either.
Okay.
The winter, you know, they grade right now, they go up and down. And when you can hear me, I'll tell you how it's an issue.
No, you've got the Darth Vader effect going there. It's everything sort of reverberating.
Coming from outer space.
Yeah.
Mike, you can feel free to use the chat if you'd like. Mr. Chairman, if I could, I missed
Sure.
one of engineering's comments.
Okay.
They asked the applicant to update the operation and maintenance plan for the site and all of the BMPs on the site.
Yeah.
That was also completed by the applicant, and we'd recommend that document be recorded at the completion of the project.
Okay. So out of curiosity, do you have a draft order of conditions for us or?
I don't have one that's fully completed. So I was hoping that the applicant would be agreeable to looking at a draft for the next meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, that'd be acceptable.
Okay, shall we leave the hearing open as well as not issuing orders?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best idea.
Okay.
We can see if there's
So-
any comments from the audience as well.
Yep.
Don, if I can jump in, the question on the
That's fine.
permeable pavement, Could we get some estimate of the price difference? It seems to me that we're discharging into wetlands or streams at several locations on the property. If there were an opportunity to filter some of that water through the ground, that'd be a really good thing in this instance.
We can look at that. Like I did mention in my presentation, this is limited by the funding from the state. So we'll take a look at that and we'll see what we can do.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So what I was trying to say, if you can hear me, the permeable pavers, what happens is you can put the right stone underneath it, the gravel and everything, but they do during freeze and thaw cycles, they do move. And this is an area where the elderly do their drying. And one of the most important things we do with all these housing authorities is to eliminate trip hazards. So if you get brick pavers or stone pavers and one goes up more than 1/4 of an inch, it's a trip hazard. And it's, on elderly sites, we try to avoid that. And just from a cost standpoint, there's 10 buildings. Each building has, I believe, two laundry areas. So that's 20 laundry areas. Each one would cost a minimum of $10,000 more. So you're looking at a pretty big magnitude, maybe $150,000 to $200,000 added to the project, which is bigger than the project itself. Would love to do it. And that, if you actually look on the plans that John presented, the sidewalks out back are an alternate. We don't really think the housing authority has adequate funds unless the bids come in low to do the sidewalks out back. So this is a 10-year project. I don't know if you remember, I came before you guys back in 2009 originally for the first phase. And I think you were on the board at that time. And so I can assure you that it's taken them 10 years to get the funds just to pave the roadway. Not that I don't want to do what you'd want, but that's just kind of the financial situation when it's a state project. And Emily from the director of the housing authority is here. I don't know if you'd like to share anything or.
Evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. So I actually just started the executive position last year. So to get this pavement project done, it's definitely one of my goals to complete, especially with the conditions of the roads. It's the walkways for my residents. The last thing I need as an executive director is a tripping hazard. And my main focus is the well-being of all my residents, my seniors, and my staff and visitors, to make sure that everything is in top shape. And I'm hoping this project can go through. I don't know much about all the catch basins. That's why Mike and John are there. Going to be able to answer any of those, but any other questions you may have, I could try to answer.
Okay, thanks. Are there any comments or questions from the public?
If you do have a comment or question, if you could use the raise hand function. We do not have any raised hands, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so with the applicant's approval, I'd like a motion to continue the public hearing for Deming Way to the March, help me with the date meeting?
March 3rd.
March 3rd, great.
So move.
Thank you. Vinnie made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Laura seconded the motion. Voting, Vinnie? Vinnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
And myself, Don, yes. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you. See you in a month.
Sure. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for an Anrad for 6 Tobin Drive.
And Mr. Chairman, we did receive a request to continue this to the March 3rd meeting. There's a peer review that that's required, and the applicant is going to be submitting the funds for that review to get that started. Hopefully we'll get some snow to melt and they can get out there to take a look.
Okay. So could I have a motion to continue the continued public hearing for 6 Tobin Drive till March 3rd?
Moved. Second.
Vinnie made the motion. Laura seconded the motion. To the vote, Vinnie?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
Thank you. Don, yes. Okay. Next, we have a request to extend for the Anrad for 36 and 38 Upton Drive. Looks like they're asking for 3 years.
Yeah, I believe the applicant is here tonight, or a representative that could speak to the extension.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Todd Morey with Beals Associates. Been working with Peter Crocker on this piece of property for about 6 or 7 years now, quite some time. We were the firm that did the most recent wetland delineation out there, as well as permitting through a notice of intent with a subsequent issuance of an order of conditions, and then planning board special permit site plan review process as well for multiple buildings to be eventually constructed on 36 and 38 Upton Drive. As most of you are probably aware, no construction has taken place yet. That site is still being actively marketed. And the reasoning behind our request is it is being marketed as a fully permitted site. And we just are literally crossing the T's and dotting the I's. We know that the order of conditions remains in effect and still has some time to go on it. This is more of a belt and suspenders approach by trying to extend the ORAD as well. So that is the reason for the request, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Any comments from Valerie or Cam?
Mr. Chairman, they submitted the required statement regarding the wetlands. The resource areas haven't changed, and we didn't have any questions or comments.
Okay. So I guess I'll ask for a motion to extend the ORAD for 36 and 38 Upton Drive for 3 years. That's until February 15th, 2024. Could I have that motion? Thank you, Ron. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. To the vote, Vinnie?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Have a great evening, folks.
Yep. Bye now. You wouldn't believe the pile of paper I have on the floor here. So next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for 378 384 Middlesex Ave and 200 Jefferson Road. The agenda allots 35 minutes for this. We're a little behind times, but we'll stick with the 35 minutes. And my hope is that we could sort of divide it into thirds to give the applicant the first 10 minutes, the commissioners 10 minutes, and any public comment 10 minutes, and then back to the commissioners for the last 5 minutes. Okay?
Mr. Chairman, just to remind you, Rich Kirby from LEC, the peer reviewer, is also tonight. So if we could fit him into one of those time slots as well.
Sure. And I get, yeah, I that's fine. So the first block would be great.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Joe Pesnolo from Hancock Associates, representing Princeton. I won't hopefully need 10 minutes and turn it over to Rich. As you know, we had prior to the prior meeting, we had delineated the riverfront based on what we believe to be the correct scientific methodology. The commission decided at the last hearing to engage third-party peer review of that delineation, that riverfront delineation, and LEC was engaged. We'd like to publicly thank Rich for getting out there just before the snowstorm. I think it was in December sometime or early January, to be able to look at that before the snow flew. And then he has since then put a report together that I'm sure he will go over with you. As part of his field investigation, he did ask us to relocate, or he relocated some of the flags, the riverfront delineation flags. We sent a crew out there to locate those flags, and we did put those on a plan, an updated plan. Subsequent to that, there was a request for that plan to be kind of superimposed to the old line and Rich's new line in red with that. So we had done that, and I won't belabor I'll let Rich speak to exactly what was happening, but I think the resulting change from those flags is fairly de minimis on the riverfront impacts. Valerie, if you could bring up our exhibit that shows the various areas. And I'm happy to share my screen and do it that way, whatever's easier. So we did have some minor changes in here. So as far as the riverfront impacts, again, the black hatched area is the pre-development or existing impervious within the riverfront, both inner and outer riparian. That number didn't change because the extent of pavement didn't change. That's 27,000 square feet. This small red triangle did change a little bit. It's now at 3,204 square feet. Back here, there was a minor change, and that's it. But by the back of Jefferson is 5,440. As far as the totals towards the 10% riverfront, we are now standing at 1.8% riverfront impact with the upset allowance for the regulation to be 10%. So very, very little change from where we were. I think we were at 1.7%, ticked up to 1.8%. Some of those flags did move out to that line. We are standing on our commitment to essentially the project itself is not changed from what's been before the commission for many months. Yes, the methodology and the line did change based on what we believe to be the true scientific correct methodology. I think what you'll find from a review of Rich's report and his testimony tonight is that he's in lockstep with that methodology and that delineation. And we have a project that we feel the commission now can comfortably approve under the wetlands regulations and the riverfront provisions within those regulations. So.
Thanks, Joe. Rich, do you want to discuss your peer review?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental, and we were retained to review the bank mean annual high water delineation as it relates to the proposed development at the site. I was out there on December 16th, just before a snowstorm, as Joe had indicated, and was able to get a pretty good view of the stream channel, the adjacent wetland. And what I was looking for were multiple corroborating bankful indicators. The wetlands regulations are pretty clear. I cited them in my report. Hancock cited them in their report, as well as some language in the preamble, which further informs how one goes about determining the bank mean annual high water line associated with a perennial stream. If I could share my screen, that would be great, Valerie. If I don't know if you need to allow me to do that.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So this is the exhibit plan I think that Joe wanted to have put up on the screen. Here's Jefferson Road here. This is Middlesex over here on this side. And this is the mean annual high water delineation. The black line is what was filed with the notice of intent application. And the red line represents the line that we think is the high water mark based on the high water line based on our review of the site. And what it came down to really again was the multiple corroborating bankful indicators. You know, the Wetlands Protection Act has a list of them, and we included a description of them in our report and indicated whether or not we observed them or didn't. Changes in vegetation is the first one. You know, obviously in the wintertime, it can be challenging to identify plants to the species level, but it's pretty obvious that there's a clear distinction out there between primarily aquatic and primarily terrestrial vegetation within and adjacent to the BVW. This is also evident in the photographs that were included in Hancock's technical report, which were taken during the growing season. And the plant community described on pages 4 and 5 of that report, and the Appendix B site photos clearly demonstrate that. So that is one of the indicators we used. We did observe primarily shrub swamp up gradient of the flags. There are a couple areas where you have a large patch of reed canary grass. Reed canary grass is a facultative wetland plant and isn't necessarily indicative of an aquatic situation. But what we did look for in that area of reed canary grass, and as well as within the rest of the wetland up gradient of the bank flags, was evidence of flow. And because the mean annual high water line is that which results from a fluvial process, that is the flow of the river. So you would expect to see flotsam and jetsam pushed up against the vegetation. You'd expect to see the remnant vegetation, particularly of the herbaceous plants, pushed over by the movement of water in a single direction, basically downstream. We didn't observe any of that throughout the BVW. Stain lines. Stain lines is the next bankfill indicator. They can be challenging to decipher. If you ever look at a culvert at a low flow level, usually you have several different stain lines. And those stain lines can vary depending on how often the water level is at a certain level, given the watershed area conditions of a river. The water level was pretty high when we were out there. We did include a photograph of the culverts that extend beneath Middlesex. The water was nearly at the top. I know the report talked about some other stain lines on vegetation. I didn't see anything that was too telling, if you will, in either situation. So I really didn't lean too much on the stain lines for our determination. Same with point bars. We didn't observe any point bars within the channel. Changes in slope, other than a pretty distinct break in slope separating the channel from the adjacent wetland. The adjacent wetland is relatively flat, and we don't have much change in slope there. But that distinct change in slope, separating the bank from the BVW, we did use as a bankfill indicator for this site. Changes in bank material. As you walk through this wetland area, you know, it is mucky. There is standing water. I had chest waders on, and I was finding that my boots were sinking, you know, roughly 4 to 6 inches into the muck before I encountered relatively firm ground. When I tried to step into the channel, I was by myself and had chest waders on. So my legs, you know, they sunk into the channel to 2 to 3+ feet. So you have a very distinct separation between a relatively thin layer of fine mucky sediment within the BVW and a much thicker layer of that fine mucky sediment within the channel. So the change in bank material, therefore, was one of the bankfill indicators that we used and observed for the site. Bank undercuts are typically associated with fast-moving streams. As everyone knows, Lover's Brook is a relatively slow-moving stream, so you wouldn't expect to find bank undercuts. We didn't observe any. And as indicated before, you know, we did look for the evidence of fluvial process, upgradient of the main channel, and didn't observe any. So in addition to those field indicators, again, we're looking for multiple corroborating field indicators. We also looked at the watershed data. We double checked the stream stats report that Hancock put together, indicating a 5.19 square mile watershed area to Middlesex Avenue. And that seemed to be correct. Their report included a graph from a main study indicating a bankfill width of roughly 23.9 feet. I'm sorry. Their report actually indicated a slightly more narrow channel, I believe. It's in their report. Anyway, I can get to that. I can find it if we need it. But we also looked at the USGS stream stats report, which now these days gives the bankfill dimensions associated with the stream, given the watershed area and other watershed characteristics. And the bankfill width was roughly 23.9 feet and a bankfill depth of 1.33 feet. So if you can imagine a stream channel with water flowing through it, there's a certain amount of water that will be generated from this contributing watershed area, and it has to flow through this channel. Well, it's not only bankfill width that we have to keep in mind, but it's also the bankfill dimensions, the cross-sectional area of the stream that can carry that flow through the channel, or maybe it can if it's undersized, in which case you would expect to see evidence of flow beyond the channel. Again, the USGS StreamSets program, which is sort of the go-to web application by the regulations, the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, indicated a bank full width of 23.9 feet and a bank full depth of 1.33 feet. Our observations were consistent with those measurements. If anything, the channel was larger than that. I think the channel varies in width from approximately 20 to 30 feet, and the depth was greater than 2 feet in places that we observed. And we could observe the channel, even though there was ice covering it, the ice was very clear and we could see the bottom of the channel through the ice. Let's see. So those are the tools that we have to try and determine where the bank mean annual high water line is for a given perennial stream. It's not perfect, but again, we're trying to use these tools to predict where that high water line is, again, based on the fluvial processes associated with the river. One thing of note is we looked at the Google Earth imagery and the historical aerials imagery to see if we could observe any meaningful or measurable change in the channel. Oftentimes when you have mean annual high water and fluvial processes extending beyond the channel, you have a lot of sediment moving around and the point bars are forming and oxbows are forming, and the actual meander path of the channel is changing. Obviously, that can change over a relatively short period of time or a relatively long period of time. We only had the historic aerials going back to, I think it was 1938, but the flow path appears to be pretty consistent from 1938 in the historic aerials, as well as the Google Earth imagery going back to 1995. So what we did was, here's the, this is the Dunn and Leopold bank full channel dimensions graph that we talk about in the report. This was the sketch that we included in the report that showed how each flag should move up anywhere from roughly 5 to 12, or in this case, maybe closer to 14 feet. We did hang flags out there. Hancock survey located those flags and put them on the revised plan, which I showed you with the red line plan. And then we took photographs at each of the locations. These are the existing pink flags. These I started on the north side of the development and worked my way toward Middlesex. So here's one of the flags against the relatively large channel here. Trying to get to the flags where we actually relocated some. So here's an example of where we made a change. I'm not sure how good the resolution is over Zoom, but you can see this is, let's see, this is flag 17. And you can see that's flagged on a hummock, which was protruding from the water level. We had moved 17R back here to be a little bit more consistent with the observed flow path that we saw when we were out there. Here's a downstream view of flag 16, and we moved the flag up to here to 16R to be along this more abrupt break in topography and change in predominantly aquatic versus predominantly terrestrial land. Here's another change. This is actually looking upstream at flag 114. This is where the the intermittent stream that flows beneath the roadway. Jefferson Road flows in an easterly direction and intercepts Lubbers Brook. So here's one of the flags here. This was a revised flag. Here are some of the other flags that you can see. So that was sort of that was our approach and the changes that we made during our site walk. Here's another good example. This is looking out into the channel. This flag was overhanging water column, and I had thought that you likely have some evidence of, you probably have flow in this little zone. So the flag was moved up. Whoops, that's not the right project. So that really concludes our review. I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have and get into a little bit deeper discussion on any of those points if you like.
Great. Thank you, Rich.
Mr. Chairman, if I just might add one point with regards to something that came up in Valerie's review of our initial report with regard to the main study. On November 30th, we did present to the commission in accordance with Valerie's suggestion, revised information from a Massachusetts bank width study, and the cited the reference there, and presented to the commission a revised graph from that report, very similar to the main study as far as its presentation and the information that's there. And the result from that was a predicted bank width of 29 feet. And that information was there, was again presented to the commission on the 30th. So it's consistent with the main study, consistent with what Rich had just mentioned from USGS stream stats and his observations that the stream width is somewhere between 25 and 30 feet wide. Just wanted to make that clarification.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, so now commissioners, Vinny, do you have any questions or comments on what you heard so far? How about you, Ron?
Just confirming that the flags are now entirely as recommended by LEC. There are no exceptions.
Yes, I reviewed this exhibit plan. There we go. I had specifically, well, Hancock had submitted a revised notice of intent plan set with the revised flags. And so what I wanted to review myself, and as well as to be available to review for the commission tonight, was this exhibit plan that shows the flag changes that we made. And I reviewed these changes along with my notes and the photographs, and they seem to be, very consistent with where we hung our flags. So I would say yes.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Ron? More?
That's it.
Okay, Tom?
No questions here, Don.
Laura?
I don't have any questions. It sounds like Rich's review is very comprehensive.
Alec? How about you?
No comments.
I have a question for the delineators, for Rich. Given the indicators you were looking for and the ones that you had sort of seized on for your report, changes in vegetation, the changes in slope, the changes in bank material, and the watershed analysis, would you expect to get the same answer based on those indicators, whether you were delineating this in August or whether you were delineating it in December?
Yes, I would think so. Even if the water levels were low, if anything, that would make the bankful indicators that we did observe more prevalent. Might be a bit easier to walk through the wetland system as well. Although my understanding is that even in the summer months, the water levels here are pretty high. The question is whether or not you have, these fluvial processes changing or creating those bank fill indicators beyond what we flagged. If delineating the mean annual high water line was as simple as locating the elevation of the water during during the spring flooding season and extrapolating that elevation across the adjacent wetland, that would be very easy to do. And I think DEP would have made it that easy in their regulations. But I think they, went through this very thoughtful analysis of looking at, okay, every stream's going to be different. There's going to be a lot of different influences or influencing factors for each stream to determine what the mean annual high water line is. And so here are these bank fill indicators. Here are these tools. Here is the, the watershed analysis and the bank fill dimensions that USGS can provide. Use all these tools and see what makes sense. See what, again, what multiple corroborating indicators you can observe. So that might be a long answer to your question, but I think yes, the results would be the same or certainly very similar, regardless of the time of year you were there.
Thank you. And a second question with respect to the watershed analysis. Given that it sort of relies on statistics gathered from different stream and wetland systems, is that sort of a feel-good kind of thing that you apply after you've looked at a lot of the physical indicators to say, well, yeah, it seems pretty consistent. Like, the differences in width seem to be between 23 and 29 feet, which to me are almost the same. And the depth between 1.5 feet and 2 feet, which again, to me seem almost the same. So is that the way that that's used?
Well, usually if I have a site where I'm going to be delineating mean annual high water, I run the stream stats first because I want to know what those bank fill dimensions of that channel should be during mean high water conditions. So if I know that if the channel, it should be, roughly 25 feet wide and 2 feet deep, I'm going to be looking for that when I'm out there. And if I find the channel is 25 feet wide, but only 1 foot deep, that tells me, boy, this channel doesn't appear to be sized adequately to carry high water flows through the channel, which means I should be looking for, and I'd be looking for anyway, but that points me that I really should be looking for evidence of flow beyond the channel, which would create those bank fill indicators beyond the channel. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
It's not even so much the bank fill width in and of itself, it is the bank fill dimension. It's the cross-sectional area of the stream. So all of those things are important to know, and the more information you have before you go in the field, the better.
Good, thank you. Okay, we're at the point where we will take public comment. Is there any public comment waiting?
Mr. Chairman, we have Suzanne Sullivan who has her hand raised.
Okay. Suzanne, you're on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Wilmington Conservation Commission. I actually not sure where to start. First of all, I'd like to know if the commission actually did receive the letter today from the Headwater Stream Team and other residents in town.
Yeah, we got it today. Is it possible that you can generate these in a more timely fashion?
Well, it's
A lot
sometimes,
to spring in a day.
yeah, I know. Well, I don't get paid, this is strictly volunteer time. So sometimes it's difficult to get stuff coordinated and out. So, so I apologize for that.
Can you tell me too who the people who signed it are they the members of the stream team, the headquarters stream team?
Some are and some are not. Some are residents of town. There's 3 people on the list that are not residents of town, but they are concerned about Lover's Brook because of it's a tributary to the Ipswich River.
Okay, and they all got to see your letter today as well, first time.
What, the people that signed on to it, you mean?
Yeah.
No, some of them saw it before today, last night, yesterday.
Okay. Recently, though. Okay.
I didn't write it at 9 o'clock this morning. I wrote it over the weekend during the snowstorm.
Why don't you go to page 2 of your letter where you start with issues and sort of work through those, okay?
Well, I would actually, unless somebody has a question, I mean, I don't even feel the need to actually go through that point by point unless somebody has a question. I mean, I think concerns are outlined pretty well in the letter. I do have some comments on some of the things that were said by Mr. Kirby, which I think needs to be addressed. I'm concerned that, the applicant and Mr. Kirby, your peer reviewer, are using stream stats from USGS to determine the width of bankful discharge for Lover's Brook. There's disclosures that USGS uses that says that some streams it should not be used, and it's not accurate to use them. I'd also like to state that Mr. Kirby made a comment that elevation is not used for in the regulations, but DEP does, mention in that elevations can be used of stain lines, and stain lines on bridge abutments are relevant. But one of the things that Mr. Kirby stated was about stream stats. And stream stats are nowhere in the regulations except for to determine what is an intermittent stream and what is a perennial stream. Stream stats are not used to determine bankful discharge in the regulations for the Rivers Protection Act. So I think it's extremely inappropriate to use it here, and especially on a brook like Lover's Brook, where you have it dammed by culverts. It screws up the stream stats. It's an urbanized brook. Lover's Brook is a brook that has a lot of its riverfront area already disturbed. All the Headwater Stream Team wants to do is to make sure that the existing riverfront area is protected under the law as a wetland stream. A wetland stream is not a typical stream that has defined banks. Mr. Kirby says that he was out there and there was ice over the channel. If there's ice over the channel, that means there's definitely had to have been ice in the adjacent area to the channel. And maybe that's why he couldn't see flow, because it was iced over. Martha and I submitted to the commission videotapes of flow. We gave you videotapes, and I don't know what else we can do to show a fluvial process when we videotape flow in the areas that they're not including. We're very disappointed that there was not a review of the wetland line past this project. You're only looking at 1/3 of the project, and we don't agree with the determinations there, but there's 2/3 of Lover's Brook that doesn't have flags on it that's being delineated on a site plan. If they have flags there, they haven't been reviewed by anyone. That's really inappropriate. And I mean, we're being left in a position where we have to appeal this. We have no choice but to appeal this to DEP. We were hoping that maybe we could, work around that, but I don't see how we can not appeal this. It's really egregious to think that 2/3 of this brook is not being reviewed. The flags in the field are not being reviewed because there aren't any. They're going by top of bank.
Suzanne,
and there were other, excuse me?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're looking at the delineation and you've decided you're going to appeal it, do you want to jump ahead to the questions you had about stormwater issues?
Sure, I can do that. Yep.
Get some feedback from Joe.
Yep, the other thing I wanted to bring up, which is in the beginning of the letter, was when we did have our site visit, and I didn't know if the commission was aware of this or not, and I did put this in the letter, that when we had our site visit with DEP for the Anrad, there was some soil augering that was done, and the wetland line, Valerie was there and Cameron was there, Joe was there, their wetland consultant was there, and they had augured some soils, and the soils, there were evidence of wetland soils outside of their wetland flags. But their wetland flags don't appear to have been changed on this plan. So that's an issue too. I don't know if you want me to move on, or
Yeah,
if
go-
someone
go
wants
to-
to address that.
Why don't you go to the stormwater issues, which you have down on the next to the last page, on page 4?
Yep. So this is what when we reviewed it, the existing catch basins and drain manholes on Jefferson Road should be replaced with structures meeting stormwater standards. It didn't appear that they met the stormwater standards.
Is that even in this? Is Jefferson Road, where are they located on Jefferson Road?
It's not actually Jefferson, it's off the Jefferson Paper Road.
It's off the Jefferson Paper Road.
So that's.
I mean, I don't have the site plan in front of me, so.
So the driveway doesn't follow the Jefferson Road.
Right, so the driveway doesn't follow Jefferson Road all the way.
Mr. Chairman, I might just cut to the chase here. We're rebuilding all of Jefferson Road and replacing all of the structures. And all the catch basins that we are proposing will meet DEP stormwater standards and having 4-foot deep sumps and hoods.
Okay, so that's.
Is that depicted on the plan though?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. No, I'll just keep going because that's not true. But permeable pavement does not appear to meet DEP's 100-foot setback to open waters. Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook, Volume 2, Chapter 2 is a reference. So some of the permeable pavement, especially over by the where the grass area is along Roberts Brook and the inner riverfront area, is less than 100 feet from open water. Okay, so that's, I guess, another thing that doesn't get a comment because it doesn't meet the standards. Permeable pavement underground storage does not appear to meet DEP standard for 2-foot separation to groundwater. Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook, Volume 2, Chapter 2. I believe it's at elevation, groundwater level is at elevation 85.2.
Mr. Chairman,
I think we did talk about that.
Yeah, we contend that it does meet the 2-foot separation. This has been peer reviewed by your peer review engineer or the town's peer review engineer. We've also provided a mounding calculation. So you have my stamp as a PE on this set of plans. The town has had a professional engineer review the same. And I would just contend that if Ms. Sullivan has an engineering degree and a professional engineering stamp, then I might sit here and go item by item with regard to that. But my stamp's on it. I report that the design meets Massachusetts stormwater standards, and I stand behind that.
Are you looking at the same letter, by the way, Joe? You have a copy of that?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so that's fine. Let's keep going. It is what it is. You don't have to be insulting. Contact CDS units should be used for pre-treatment, not final treatment, as they do not remove finer particles and don't get the stated 80% TSS removal per New Jersey DEP, which is what DEP uses. And we linked the website. Okay, no comments. We'll
Uh,
keep going.
Yes, I do have a comment. Why are you quoting New Jersey? And
Because that's what DEP uses.
Mr. Chairman, their TSS, 80% TSS removal has no particle size related to it. It is a matter of controversy amongst the different factions with regards to stormwater and treatment or so forth. But the bottom line is that there is no particle size specified within the DEP regulations. 80% TSS is something that has been reviewed back when the DEP had the stormwater testing within their purview or oversight. That's no longer, that program is no longer running. So now the responsibility for proving out that a technology meets the 80% TSS standard is upon the applicant. And the applicant, in this case, their engineer, which is me, and we rely upon the vendors' third-party testing of their equipment. And we've provided that within our reports. And again, it's about total suspended solids removal, and there is no particle size specification.
okay, on the last page, there's a question about the pump chamber. And-
Yes, did you want me to read that, Mr. Chairman, or? So what is the
Yeah,
pump
yeah.
chamber and riprap outlet west of building A? Where is detail? We couldn't find any detail on that.
That's a small area of pavement against the garage door that that can't be drained by gravity. So the pump detail is something that will be on the construction document.
But where does that pump to? It pumps into the riprap, and then where does it go?
What is it pumping?
Yeah, what's it pumping? Water? Groundwater?
No, it's pumping stormwater.
So it's pumping stormwater and it's going into the riprap, and then where's it go? Into the wetlands? Into the river? That's an issue. I'll keep going.
Well, wait a second, you may have an answer. If you wait. Joe, you're looking it up?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, this is the trench drain by the garage door. So that the trench drain drains into a CDS unit, and then that goes into a pump chamber, and then that goes out to a riprap outfall. So we're providing the treatment and prior to discharge.
So you're pumping water that solids have settled from out onto the riprap?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just a small area of the driveway that, again, can't go into the site drain system. So it's
treated water.
volume?
Yes, it's treated water, I guess is the point that I'm making, right?
yes, it's treated water.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the volume?
That would depend on the storm event.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, I'll keep going.
Yep.
Building B will alter BVW by shading. It is a 4-story building and is less than 15 feet from the BVW. It's a concern.
What is the tree, how many trees are there right now that are providing shading in that same location? Is that a heavily overgrown area?
Are you asking me? Or are you asking the applicant?
I'm asking.
The portion of the building is over the existing pavement that's out back. But a large portion of the building is within the forested area that we've walked many site walks when we park in the back and walk out towards towards the wetlands. So it's a forested area. There's an island back there that wasn't delineated, that has, as you know, that has some pine trees as well as the other overstory. So yeah, there's quite a bit of trees that will be removed as part of the project.
Okay. Next, Susan. Suzanne, sorry.
Suzanne, several non-native plant species are proposed. The retaining wall edge of the BVW impedes wildlife. The retaining walls in the inner riparian impedes wildlife, like turtles, for instance. It is in the 500-year floodplain, doesn't meet standard for pulling development back to restore inner riverfront. We all can agree where the riverfront is there. All right, and it's impeding the function of the inner riverfront. They have an obligation to make things better, not worse. And that retaining wall makes it worse, and they're not pulling stuff away from the river. So that's an issue. That's an issue for us. I would hope it would be an issue for the Concom. Construction entrance should be farther from the brook, further from the brook. There's a construction entrance right next to the brook into the site. Why does it have to be there? Why can't it be farther away? I'll keep going. If the culvert under Jefferson Road,
Is there anything you'd like to say, Joe? Is it movable, or is it?
I mean, the construction entrance usually aligns with the entrance that we're proposing into the site. This also happens to be in an area that's currently all paved. So we need to get access in and out of the site. We need to effect change or grading change that gets our building pad set, gets our paved areas set. So it only makes sense to put it in an area that that aligns with that regrading and aligns with the final location of the entrance into the site from Middlesex Ave.
well, it's also close to the brook. That's inner riverfront area. There's a whole area. There's the whole Jefferson Road that can be used for a construction road, and it shouldn't be that close to the brook. That's an issue that we have and will continue to have. If the culvert under Jefferson Road needs replacement, will there be a new filing? Will it meet stream crossing standards? We've just heard once tonight, which wasn't clear in the site plan, if you ask me, that all of Jefferson Road is going to be replaced. So what does that mean for that culvert? And what mitigation will be there? Will there be any filling of the wetlands along the edge of that intermittent stream? And will that replacement meet the stream crossing standards?
Mr. Chairman, there's a condition of the comprehensive permit that was put in there at the behest of your town engineer, Mr. Paul Aluni, that during construction we would assess the condition of the culvert and render repairs to that culvert. It is not our intent to change, or it is our intent to utilize the existing head walls that are on either side of Jefferson Road as it crosses this area. We will effect repairs as they needed and as instructed by Mr. Aluni. There's a portion of Jefferson that is that ultimately is envisioned to become a public way. So there is great interest by Mr. Aluni and public works staff to make sure that all the infrastructure within Jefferson is up. We don't envision that to be a wholesale, removal of the again the head walls and a reformatting of the culvert, but just to effect repairs where they are needed. The reconstruction of Jefferson is merely the removal of the pavement and the slight regrading. We're going to more accurately define high and low points. Again, replace the drainage structures with fully compliant catch basins and so forth, increasing the level of treatment that from what occurs today, and put in granite curbing and sidewalk and, you know, all of that, so that Jefferson is again brought up as close to town standards as possible, with again the intent of a good portion of it to become the responsibility of the town, because it does serve for access to the commuter rail lot, which is important to the town.
So that's another issue that the Headwater Stream team has, and that we have with the project, is that if that culvert needs to be replaced at all, it should meet the stream crossing standards. And once again, it's still not clear whether that should happen, and what the public process would be if that were to happen. So that's another issue that we have that we will obviously have to bring forward. I guess that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else in the public want to make comments, questions?
Yes, please. This is Stephanie Bama. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a resident at 14 Kelly Road, and I just wanted to state my support of the Headwaters Commission stance. I'm really a fan of more housing and developments that are in line with responsible community guidelines and practices. And unfortunately, this just really seems like a lot of cutting corners. And if they can reconsider how they're doing it, I would really like to support it. But at this time, it really seems that it would be to the detriment of the stream and our wetlands, which really need protection. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Is there anyone else? Okay. Why don't we make one last loop through the commission just to see if there's any questions that have popped
Mr.
up?
Chairman, Alex Whiteside, Town Council here. Would it be okay if I made one quick statement before the commission begins its final deliberations?
Please.
So, Mr. Chairman, just as a matter of law, it's a matter of the commission's discretion as you're making your final determination here to determine what is the most credible evidence before you in terms of what's been submitted. And, you know, it's my opinion as town council that the data and the science that's been submitted by licensed professionals who are, you know, experts in this field is far more credible than any documentation that's been submitted by, you know, a volunteer group of individuals who, you know, may have fervent beliefs, but are not licensed professionals in this matter.
Thank you, Alex. So going around quickly, is there anything final, Vinny? Are you?
Well, I have Jefferson Road work, you know, that has been addressed, so I'm okay with it.
Ron?
No questions, thanks.
Tom?
No questions.
Laura?
No further questions.
Alec?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, as am I. So a question to the applicant, have you seen the draft order of conditions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have reviewed the draft order of conditions. Had some minor suggestions. Valerie's incorporated. By and large, we're in full agreement.
Would you tell us what those are, please?
I'm sorry.
Would you tell us what those are, please? If they're different than the printed
No,
version?
no, this was earlier in the week.
All right.
They've
Okay,
been
fine.
addressed. So,
Okay. So at this point, I'd like to ask the commissioners if they have any questions on the order of conditions, the draft order of conditions that you've received. Nope. Give you a minute.
Mr. Chairman, while they're looking at that, could I make a, just one small comment on the draft? I noticed this evening that the draft references the NOI date with the original submitted NOI, and probably should reference the revised NOI that was submitted this fall with the revised plans. So that was the one thing that I saw that I wanted to point out that may need to be changed.
Okay. So everyone's set now? Give a nod, except for Alex. So could I have a motion then to close the hearing, the public hearing for 378 to 382 Middlesex Ave and 200 Jefferson Road, please?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Second, please. Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Could I have a motion to issue the order of conditions with the revision that Valerie just mentioned to change the date of the NOI to the most recent filing?
So moved.
Vinny made the motion. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second from Laura. How do you vote, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
Don, yes. So we're all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Chairman, thank you very much. Members, thank you.
Thank you from the stream team folks as well for your contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Right.
Next, we have a continued public hearing for 687 Main Street.
Mr. Chairman, we received a request to continue the hearing. We had a meeting with them last week, and it went really well. They're making some changes to the plans and would like some more time to do so. So they'd like to be continued to the March meeting.
Okay, so you're impressed by their response now. They're
Well, the meeting went well, and I'll hold my my impression until we get the plans.
okay. They're proceeding more constructively, I guess, is what I'm hoping.
That is my hope as well.
Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 687 Main Street till March 3rd, please?
So moved.
Laura is going to get the motion. Second?
Second.
Ron gets the second. How do you vote, Vinny?
Okay, yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
Don, yes. The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Shitty Lane Drive.
Mr. Chairman, the town engineer has assured me that he'll be back in front of you guys with revised plans for the March meeting. And they've worked out some design issues and are looking forward to moving the project forward if they could be continued to March.
Okay, great. Could I have a motion then to continue the public hearing for Shady Lane Drive to March 3rd.
So moved.
Vinnie made the motion.
I'll second.
Laura seconded the motion. Vinnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec? Alec?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And Don, yes. Next on the agenda is a request to extend order of conditions for Green Meadow Drive. Map 2 and 3. Is that the way to read that? Parcels 291 to 206, 223 to 225, 207 to 222.
Yeah, so the applicant is requesting to extend the order of conditions on the subdivision until May 8th of 2022, so they can finish off completing the remaining 4 houses in the subdivision.
Okay. And that's reasonable to you?
Yes.
Fine. Okay, let's, I'll take a motion to extend the order of conditions for Green Meadow Drive until May 8th, 2022 for the parcels mentioned in the agenda.
So moved.
Laura made the motion, second from Vinnie. All in favor? Sorry, Vinnie, how do you
Yes.
vote? Yes. Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
Don? Yes. Now we're to certificates. The next item is a request for a certificate of compliance for 12 New Hampshire Road.
Yeah, I conducted a site visit, and certificate is ready to issue.
Could I have a motion then to issue the certificate of compliance for 12 New Hampshire Road?
So moved.
Ron made the motion, second by
Me.
Laura.
Second.
Vinnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
And Don, yes. Final is a request for a certificate of compliance for 2 Revere Ave.
So I also conducted a site visit the other week, and it looked good. It looks good, and the certificate is ready to issue.
Okay. Were they the people that sort of said they wondered why they were even covered by orders of conditions?
Yes, that's right. They're actually not in the buffer zone at all. But at the time that they constructed that development, they included all of the parcels within the order. So
So you have to give them all certificates.
that's right.
All right. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 2 Revere Ave, please?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Bless you. Second?
Second.
Ron seconded. Vinnie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I vote yes as well. So we're down to the discussion. Valerie, Cameron, please.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So I wanted to 5 Sergeant Veloza Way. That's part of the North Wilmington Estate subdivision. The applicant filed with the commission and received an order of conditions for the new home. unfortunately, between his plan that he submitted and then the revised plan that the commission approved, the house footprint got switched to a different footprint. And so what he's requesting is kind of guidance on whether he should file for an amendment or if this could be picked up on a certificate of compliance. The difference in the footprint is 2 feet on one side and 4 feet on the other side, but the house itself is no closer to the wetlands. It's the same distance away, and it basically just kind of extends the front of the house, which is in the very outer portion of the buffer zone. So I didn't want to, I wanted to bring that to you guys to see if you'd like him to come back to amend his order, or if that small variation is something that could be picked up on the certificate.
In the past, we've seen, I'm going to silence here for a sec. All right. I think we've seen differences of that order of magnitude when people have submitted as-builts for their certificates. So I would be okay if we simply waited for the request for a certificate of compliance came along. How do you feel, Vinny?
What did you say? You want to wait until the certificate of compliance comes out?
Yeah, rather than have them come back. The certificate, the request for a certificate of compliance would say, the house is a little bit bigger, it's 2 feet longer, 4 feet wider, but no closer to the wetlands. And my thought was, we've seen that kind of language in previous applications for a certificate. So I'd say it's okay to have them tell us that when they request a certificate. And I was going to ask everyone how they felt, versus having them come in and amend their filing.
Well, I don't see a problem with them coming in and amend it.
Okay.
You know, that's my, I would say take care of the paperwork now.
Ron, how do you feel?
Indifferent. Either's fine with me. It's same end result.
Laura?
I'm going to say I'm a procrastinator by nature, so I'll say we can pick it up in the end.
Tom?
Yeah, I agree with Laura.
Alec?
Yep.
I would be okay with them doing it at the time they request a certificate. So I think that the consensus is that way. Okay?
Okay. I guess I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then we had 2 more just really quick discussion items. In your packet is the town's vegetation yearly operational plan. We're not going to discuss it tonight, but if you do have any questions, please let us know. Have the provision that when they mark out no spray zones, that the conservation agent would review those with them in the field to ensure that they're getting those no spray zones close to wetlands, correct? So let us know if you want us to put that on an agenda in the future. And then just hopefully you got an invitation to our workshops for our MVP plan and hazard mitigation plan update. We're going to hold 2 workshops in February, and we'd love for you to join us if you can.
I have a question about both of those, actually. The vegetation plan. Do they review the kind of chemistry that they want to use every so often? You know, to see if there are things that are more biodegradable, less harmful. you know, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I know that Jamie is very attentive to different ways to remove vegetation. I know that they use several different products and they're outlined in that plan and what their effectiveness is. So I think they do look at that. In those sensitive areas that are marked no spray, they're going to use sort of mechanical means to cut the vegetation instead of spray. But I know that they have several different products and they're effective in different ways. And yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the second question is on the invitation, if you can't make the first meeting a workshop, is it still good to come for the second one?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes for January?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try a motion then. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for the January, help me with the date meeting. 6th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
And Alec?
Yes.
Were you here, Alec? Or were you not here?
Oh, no, I don't think I was.
Okay.
Yep.
Forget I then. And I'll vote yes as well. So is there anything else? Are we done for the night?
Well, I think Tom has a little bit of an announcement that, and I'll do it for him, but next meeting for April will be Tom's last meeting. He's going to move on to bigger and better things.
Well, I don't know about that, but no, I appreciate the opportunity to meet you folks and to sit in on some interesting discussions. I'll leave it at that. But I, like a lot of you, I'm sure, I have many volunteer activities, and with this one, it's sort of put me over the edge. And I think I definitely want to stay in touch with Valerie and all of you folks. And if there's anything more specific and more sort of hands-on is what I was really looking for, is if you need a steward of some of our open properties or help build trails or things like that, I'd be glad to take on specific projects. But as part of my job, I sit in on a lot of these meetings. So this one is just one more. So again, thanks for the time, and hopefully you can identify a new candidate and they'll take over by April.
Great. Well, thank you very much for working with us, Tom. We
Okay,
appreciate
no
that.
problem, Don. Thanks.
Tom, it's been a pleasure having you. And
Okay.
if you know anyone who wants to take your place, send them our way.
I will certainly keep that in mind, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
for your time.
Thanks, Vinny. And Cameron still owes me a tennis match, though. He's not getting off of that.
I do.
All right, thanks. Is that good night for us, or do we have anything else?
Gotta make a
Good night.
motion.
Yeah,
to go-
yeah. Are you making a motion to adjourn the meeting, Laura?
I think that's what I just said.
Great, thank you very much. How about you, second?
Second.
Vinny seconded? All right, how about voting? Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alec?
Yes.
And Don, yes. Thank you again.
All right,
Good night.
thanks.
Thank you,
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Have a good
See you
night.
all next month. Bye-bye.
Bye.